Thank you for joining us today on our webinar, 5 Ways to Build Community Using Teams. My name is Tabia MacDonald, and I'm the Digital Advisory Manager at SysGen Solution Group. The Digital Advisory Group works at the intersection between business and technology. We work with clients to look at how employees interact with technology and applications to drive business process and strategy. This wouldn't be a webinar if I didn't do a bit of a sales plug. So we do have a Teams adoption package here at SysGen that provides end-to-end deployment services to help organizations drive complete adoption and benefits realization. Understanding business goals, optimizing configuration, developing strong governance and roadmap are critical factors in successful Teams deployments and sustainment plan. Joining me today is Ryley Bauer, one of our business analysts. He is also our Teams expert here at SysGen.
Thanks, Tabia. I'm Ryley. I've been with SysGen for 3 years, and I have a Bachelor of Commerce from the U of A in IT management. I'm passionate about Teams, and I like to look at how we can use it to support a productive and online community. Events like this can be done using all the built-in features of Teams and our work-from-home equipment. Just a quick note here on the Q&A. We do have Q&A options for the meeting. We're going to cover the questions kind of at the end, but feel free to post your questions as they come up using the question box in the top right of the Teams. And we'll moderate them and publish them accordingly. For the questions you want to see the most, please hit the thumbs up button to vote for them. Thanks,
Thank you, Ryley. Thank you, Ryley. So now we will go into our presentation. One thing that I want to note is, as Ryley said, we are doing this using all of our own home equipment. And so we also are going to be, I'm going to be sharing my screen and transitioning between my demo environment and my PowerPoint. So you're going to see that kind of in our transitions. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen. So today, we are going to start with an introduction, the COVID pandemic and how it has hindered our ability to build a productive online community. After the introduction, I'm going to do a brief Teams 101 for those of you who may not be as familiar with how Teams operates. Our learning topics today include setting expectations, chat etiquette, sound matters, what to look for in a headset, camera know-how, camera best practices, communicate, 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 meetings and live events, increase creativity, walking virtual meetings. We'll conclude with some final thoughts on how to create community using Teams. After that, we'll open up the floor for question and answer. So feel free to send those questions over throughout the webinar as they come to you, and we will do our best to answer as many as we can at the end of the webinar. So, businesses are faced with an overwhelming amount of challenges during these times. At the outset of the pandemic, many businesses needed to rapidly mobilize technology at a scale while still ensuring security and compliance with company data. They needed to enable productivity while supporting collaboration and innovation. Employee challenges were no less daunting. For the first time ever in history, a large portion of the workforce began working from home. There have been many studies in the past on the benefits of remote work. However, in our current situation, many of these benefits can be hindered. At SysGen, we have always had the ability to work remotely. Prior to the pandemic, I regularly worked from home and often had my most productive work days while working remotely. My previous experience working from home is very different than that of today, namely because of these 4 factors. Lack of choice. Previously, employees generally had a choice to work remotely. That is not the case today. Unsuitable spaces. Many people are working on kitchen tables or in bedrooms as they were not set up to work remotely. Privacy and distractions. Families, pets, roommates are all contributing to increased distractions and lack of privacy. Isolation. Conversely, there are people who are living alone and they're faced with unprecedented isolation and lack of in-person interactions. So how can teams help? There is no magic wand or formula which can erase all these challenges, but there are technologies and platforms that can help support a productive online community. Microsoft Teams is one of those technologies that can really provide a secure platform for teamwork anywhere. For those of you who are new to Teams, I'm going to provide a quick overview of the main components of Teams. So I'm going to just switch from the presentation and go into my demo environment. So this is a typical Teams setup. Teams is a digital workspace that's more than just Skype for Business. It's a collaboration platform that can transform how you do your business. Teams is made up of channels. So within each team, there are channels. That's where the real work gets done. Within the channels, you can hold meetings, have team conversations, and share files. At the top of each channel, you have the tabs. These are like links to your favorite files, apps, and services. When you share a file in your channel conversation, you and your team can collaborate on it together. All changes are automatically synced and saved. To see all the files that have been shared in Teams, click on the files to the left. Want to have a private chat with a person or group? Click on New Chat. Type in the name of the person you would like to chat with. And a good practice is to create a name for that chat so that you can easily find it later. If you want to turn your chat into a video call or audio call, you can click on the icons, the video or audio icon, and easily turn that into a call. For activities, if you want to see all of your missed activities, click on the activity icon and it will show you your @mentions and any of your missed conversations. Now we will talk about etiquette, our first topic, setting etiquette and chat etiquette. Now that you have a basic understanding of Teams, let's talk about how you build community. With chat etiquette, one of the first things that I want to discuss today is pay attention to status. Teams has built-in status features that can help an online community be more productive. This is something that I personally have become more intentional about in our current situation and have not been very great at in the past. In a normal office setting, you wouldn't interrupt a coworker who is actively engaged in work behind a closed door or on lunch unless it's something urgent. By paying attention to status, you can provide that same courtesy and not interrupt someone's productivity. It is very easy for chat to get out of hand and be a productivity killer. Managers in particular should be aware of statuses. As a manager, it is important to check someone's status in Teams before engaging with them, as employees may feel obligated to respond instantaneously, even if they're in a meeting or are otherwise busy. Without further ado, I'm going to walk through what each status means in Teams. So you find your status on your top right corner. You click on your icon and it displays your status. Right now it's showing that I am available. Available is when you're active in Teams and don't have anything in your calendar. Teams will automatically set your status from available to away when you lock your computer or when it enters into an idle or sleep mode. The next status is busy. Busy is when you want to focus on something, but you do want to receive notification pop-ups. If you're in a meeting or a call, Teams will automatically change your status to in a meeting or in a call, busy. Do not disturb. Use do not disturb when you want to focus on a task and don't want notification pop-ups to interrupt you. When you are presenting your screen in Teams, like I'm doing right now, your status will automatically change to do not disturb. If you've manually set your status to do not disturb, make sure that you switch off of it when you do become available. Be right back. This is a status that I don't really use, but it is available if you want to say that you're just temporarily away. Appear away. This is similar to do not disturb, and you can use this status when you want to work without having to respond right away to chat and messages. If you are not signed into Teams, you will show as offline. You can also create a custom status message if you want to provide additional information to your coworkers. So how to create a custom status, you click on the Set Status message, and you can type in what message you want. From there, you can decide how long you want that status message to display. Microsoft has built-in ones, 1 hour, 4 hours, today, or this week, or you can create a custom one. I'm going to use today. And then I click Done. Now, whenever my coworkers are trying to reach me, they will get this message, I'm in a workshop. If I decide that I want to remove that status, I can click on the delete button and it will delete right away. If I didn't click on the delete button, it would immediately go off as soon as that time period that I set is over. So after the day is over, it would immediately turn off. Other things to talk about in chat etiquette are when to turn chat into a call. So oftentimes you can get caught in a loop with coworkers where you're going back and forth on the same issue. My rule of thumb is if you go back and forth more than 3 times, then you should probably turn your chat into a call. So if I'm talking to Sally and we just keep going back and forth, I can easily turn this into a call by clicking on either the video call or the audio call icon. Our last etiquette point is when do you use group chat versus when do you use channel posts? I'm going to now flip out of the demo environment and go back into my PowerPoint. Channel posts versus group posts. In this slide, we compare channel posts to group posts. Channel posts are good for communication that you would send to people as a CC in an email. It does not notify the users. It's a great place to provide announcements and information to your team. If you do need to action someone in a channel post, you should use the @mention feature so that they receive the notification. Conversely, chats are good for day-to-day conversations. Think of it like a phone call or a text message. The entire team does not need to see the day-to-day conversations between team members. However, the outcome of the chat could be posted to a team channel if it's relevant and pertinent to everyone in the group. I'm now going to hand this over to Ryley so he can give us some tech tips on chat. And I have a really hard time saying that word. Over to you, Ryley.
Thanks, Tabia. So yeah, now that we've kind of talked about using Do Not Disturb to manage your notifications, want to make sure that we can get through to people if you need. So I'm back to the demo environment, and I need to make sure that people like my manager and important projects I'm working on right now can still get through to me if I've said Do Not Disturb. So I click on the profile icon in the top right, and we navigate down to Settings. And on the privacy settings, you can manage your Do Not Disturb. So I can set priority access here, and I can say that no matter what, Sally can get through to me. If I set my status to Do Not Disturb, I will still receive notifications for any chats, calls, and @mentions from Sally and anybody else we put on this list. In a chat with Sally, a couple of cool features that are really helpful in your messages. You can use formatting with the little A and paintbrush icon here. So you can set things to bold, italic, include numbering or bullet points in your message. And you can also have some fun and use emojis, GIFs, and stickers to respond to the message and have some fun with it. You can also respond to a message by holding your mouse down or clicking on any message and expressing sentiment with the like, love, laugh, anger, sad, and other options. A note on that though, if you like a message, it's legally the same as acknowledging an email or reading it. In some jurisdictions, sentiments like love and like have actually been legally enforced, so it's important to note that it's equivalent to replying back and saying thank you or acknowledging a communication. Sometimes when you're working with your team, there's a few people who message you a little bit too frequently, or you're really busy so you can't work with them right now. So in order to kind of limit your distractions and set your focus, each message has a right click or 3 dots menu, and you can mute or hide chats so that you won't be receiving messages from them anymore. If I mute a chat, their profile icon will change to a bell with a strike through to tell me that the chat has been muted. I can also decide that this is a very important chat, so I can actually pin it to the top and keep a few of the key people I communicate with always within arm's reach. On that note, I can also get notified when they're available, so I can engage with them once they switch out of Do Not Disturb or come back to their computer. It's also helpful to look for your messages. A few different places that you can find messages. You can, if you know who it's from, you can start a chat with them and it'll bring back their chat. So if I were to go and start a new chat with Rick and nobody else, it would actually bring me back to our existing chat. Or I can use the main search bar right on the top here and can use this to search for keywords, notes about different messages, and clicking on any of the search results will bring you right to the post in question in the location where it's at. So the word call has been mentioned in the book club posts, and it'll bring me to each of the different teams and highlight the post in question from the search. So it's very handy to find things quickly. A note on notifications in general. If you want somebody to get through to you, the chat always notifies unless they've muted you or you're in a Do Not Disturb status. But the Teams chats are where kind of the magic happens, as Tabia said. So I want to get an instant message across. This is kind of like your day-to-day calls, your quick chats, you're walking by somebody in the coffee room and you're making a note. That's kind of what the chats are for. If you want to save something permanently for the team, it should go into a channel and be part of the group message here. Each of the channels kind of gets sorted out by subject, so it really helps you catalog your team's information and kind of make each one of these channels an effective container to get your content. With that being said, sometimes when you get a group email or message, you don't necessarily want to receive notifications from absolutely every single group thread that you have. So by default, all of the channels and teams do not notify you. If you want to get notified or you want to get somebody's attention, you can post your post to the team, but also mention with an @ the user's name and click on them to then send them a notification. If you have a channel that's really important, I'm a foodie, and you know what? I want to get all the notifications. Each one of the channels has a context or 3-dot menu. And clicking on them, I can set custom notifications for this channel. So while the default is that I don't receive emails and notifications from all the posts, I can say that this one is important enough that I do want to receive all of the posts in my banner as a notification and in my activity feed, or if I just want to see them in my activity feed. Switch back to the presentation here and talk about some of the limitations of using the chat. So with the external chat, it does work with people who are outside the organization, but they, sorry, actually, make sure my presentation is sharing properly here. So when you're chatting with people who are outside the organization, there is not the ability to share files. You have to create a meeting to share the screen and to show the files that way. Also can't add external people to the group chat, and if you have an existing chat, you can't add additional external members to the chat either. There's also the Meet Now feature, which does not work if you are with external users. You do have to schedule a meeting with them, and you do have to schedule it in Outlook. 6 things to know about chat. The chat can be one-to-one or in a group, but if you have more than a few people in a group, it's probably going to be a team or a channel. If you're typing a message in the chat, you can use Shift-Enter to start a new line. You can also choose the formatting, as I mentioned, to set your formatting options. You can have up to 100 people in a chat, but my rule of thumb is if there's more than 5, it's going to be a channel. I showed you a couple different options for the search and how to hide or mute channels to keep them out of your way. With that being said, I'm going to pass it back to Tabia.
Thank you, Ryley. So our next topic is sound matters, what to look for in a headset. Impacts of sound issues in meetings can have a resounding effect, no pun intended. All of us have probably had an experience where either ourselves or someone else in the meeting struggled with audio. Sound issues can delay the start of a meeting and cause disruption throughout, which can result in poor engagement or even loss of engagement by attendees. Some people may even leave a meeting as a result of poor audio. Ryley will now walk us through common issues with sound quality and recommendations on how to overcome them.
Thanks, Tabia. So one of the things I find is really important with your sound quality is using the best you have available to you. Your computer speakers and your microphone are not bad, but if you have a headset, it's probably better because it'll be a lot closer and a lot more proximity. If you have headphones, using wired versus wireless, wired does tend to perform better. Wireless can be subject to all sorts of interference. So I do recommend, if you have the option, using a wired pair of headphones. And the same goes for your network connection. If you can be plugged in even while you're at home, that will be a lot better than being on Wi-Fi. It really helps for call stability and quality. There's also certain devices which are Teams certified and optimized for using with Teams. They will perform better and they tend to sound a lot better than other devices that don't have the Teams certification. And a note on damaged devices. I have cats and they have eaten headphone cables, and I didn't realize that my microphone was really crackly because of that. The other thing to note is on mobile devices, pocket lint and other dirt can get into the microphone and block it, which just makes it sound muffled. So keeping that clean with Q-tip, toothpick, or a can of compressed air can really make a difference on your sound quality. What to look for in a headset. So as I mentioned, there's some equipment that is certified for Teams. It does perform a lot better for sound quality, and you can get a really nice experience with setting it up. There's 2 different ways you can plug a headset into your laptop. You can either use USB or 3.5mm aux cord headphone jack, the standard headphone cable. Both are effective. USB is digital, so it does tend to be a little bit higher quality for meetings like Teams. Some headphones also have noise canceling features, which can really help the call quality if you have a lot of background noise. But as a really cool note, Microsoft Teams is rolling out some AI noise canceling, which will be a feature available soon. Some headsets also have a control for raising and lowering the volume. And again, available in wired or wireless. Mono and stereo is another specification for headphones. Mono just means it's one ear and stereo is both. Mono is really good if you need to be able to pay attention to your environment and hear a lot of what's going on around you. It frees up one ear to do so. Stereo is a little bit more immersive and it helps you focus and block out your background noise for your own work. Teams certified headsets are built for communication. They have high quality Teams digital signal processor to make sure that your sound quality is the absolute best. And many times they'll even have the ability to a button to launch Teams and be fully integrated. You plug them in, they start up, and there's an out-of-box experience where when you plug in a Microsoft Teams certified headset, you get a special set of instructions on how to use your exact headset. Pass it back to Tabia to talk about some camera best practices. And actually, before I do this, I just want to do a quick audio demo to show you the difference in a few different systems. So right now I'm using my large diaphragm condenser mic. It's really optimized for voice and very clear. Just going to switch to the headphones I'm using so that you can see the difference.
Oh, we may have lost Ryley there. So I'll just continue on into camera know-how, camera best practices. Meeting someone on camera can often feel more intimidating than meeting someone in person. Feeling confident in how to set up and use your camera in Teams can go a long way to increasing comfort and confidence. Here is our #1 best practice tip. Please wear pants. All kidding aside, dressing to impress is also a good mindset for working in our new normal. With that being said, you can be comfortable as people are unlikely to notice your fuzzy bunny slippers if you meet while seated in your workplace. Ryley will now review the tech tips to make you an expert in managing your camera in Teams.
Thanks, Tabia. So a couple different tips for working with your camera in Microsoft Teams. There are built-in features to blur your background so that if you're in a different location than your normal workplace, it doesn't look unprofessional. It's actually really cool. The blurring of background feature came out as an accessibility option to just kind of allow people to focus. It was for hearing impaired people to be able to get assistive lip reading and just not be as distracted by the background. And now it lets you go even further by letting you install custom backgrounds like the one I have right now. If you're in a space you can't control, you want to try to have less clutter, so it'll give you a better background, either a white wall, a sheet, or whatever you got, to try to remove as much from the background as possible so that the blurring and/or background replacement is really clear. Also want to focus on framing your face really nicely. Sometimes we can have conversations with your chin or your forehead, and it's nice to be front and center. Face your lighting. Don't have a conversation with your back to the window, as it'll be really dark behind you and it'll be really hard to see. If you have no other options, turn up your monitor brightness, because that will help you at least get a little bit of lighting from what you have now. And if you're shopping around on Amazon, there's what's called a ring light or other cost-effective lighting devices that can, something can really help just getting a light like a lantern or even a large floodlight. So a quick example of how the lighting can dramatically impact my video. I have some nice lights for my video right now. I'm going to go ahead and turn them off and show you the difference. If I then go and adjust my screen brightness all the way down, the lighting's pretty poor, but if I adjust it up a little bit, it's better than nothing. Definitely getting some cost-effective lighting to make sure your video looks as good as possible while we're all trying to be social here. That being said, I'm going to pass this back over to Tabia.
Thank you, Ryley. And you'll notice on my screen, I'm going to just switch back to our PowerPoint. So our fourth topic is communicate, 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 meetings and live events. In order to build our online community, it's important that we regularly meet to communicate important information. Aside from chat and channel posts that we previously discussed, meetings and team live events provide additional avenues to connect. Just like in-person meetings, there are etiquette guidelines that can help make your online meeting a success. Here are our meeting etiquette guidelines. Set and distribute a meeting agenda in advance. This is best practice for both online and in-person meetings. Provide attendee guidelines on how to participate during the meeting. At the outset of a meeting, I like to formally provide meeting housekeeping guidelines. For example, requesting people to mute their microphone unless they are speaking. Test all technology before the meeting. I like to join meetings early so that I can test my camera, my video, and my screen sharing. Provide opportunities for attendees to contribute. Going back to establishing guidelines, as a facilitator, you can encourage everyone to speak freely throughout the meeting, or you can call on attendees to contribute at certain points throughout. Host the meeting in a quiet, private place. This is much easier said than done in these current work from home conditions, but as much as possible, try to find a quiet location. Avoid distractions. Turn off cell phones and notifications. Although Teams will automatically update your status to busy during a meeting, you can still receive notifications. As I discussed earlier, manually setting your status to Do Not Disturb will turn off these notifications. If you are the facilitator, this is good practice to avoid notification pop-ups. Teams meetings versus live events. Many people are not aware that Teams has live events, and for those who do, sometimes they're not certain which one to use when. At a high level, everyone in a meeting is an equal access participant who can come on camera, share their screen, speak to everyone, and use public chat. Live events, however, are one-to-many broadcasts with a moderated chat and a strictly controlled group of presenters. Meetings can have up to 250 participants, while live events can have up to 10,000. There are new controls in meetings that allow you to restrict some presenters, but you have much more control in a live event to moderate the meeting. Ryley will now review why we chose live events for our webinar today and the 5 things to know about security and meetings.
Thanks, Tabia. So we chose a live event because we were expecting more than 250 participants, and we wanted to make sure that we could do it with a single link and integrate it with an event management system like Eventbrite. We wanted to pre-record a presentation so we could focus on answering the Q&A. Unfortunately, we actually had a problem with our video, but we would have ran that for this presentation. The nice thing about doing a live event is we also have a really tightly controlled group of presenters. There's no need to mass mute everyone because in a meeting, everybody's equal access and anybody can unmute themselves. But in the live event situation, only the presenters can speak. So it really kind of enables that broadcast mode for you to use for things like a town hall or a public address. We can also moderate the chat so that we can keep anonymous participants under control if needed, and we can publish their questions as they come out so that we can kind of control what the audience sees. The live events are great because they can be set to public and anybody can attend up to about 10,000 participants. Regular meetings have a lobby for external participants if it's set up correctly, so that kind of prevents Zoom bombing of uninvited participants during the meeting. And you can also set your Teams admins can adjust this so that only people inside the organization can directly access meetings. Everyone can be put in a lobby or everyone can be admitted, and that does apply to dial-in users as well. Before a meeting, hosts can also go in and adjust it so they can restrict different attendees from presenting, mute them, or even remove them from the meeting if necessary. Tabby's going to talk a little bit about the attendee etiquette here. I'm going to pass it off to Tabia for the virtual meetings.
Thank you, Ryley. Increase creativity, walking virtual meetings, our final topic for today. In recent years, there have been many studies conducted around the benefits of walking meetings. A pilot study from the University of Miami's Miller School of Medicine found that walking meetings can be beneficial not only for cardiovascular health, but for productivity. Walking meetings have been shown to boost both creativity and innovation. Now more than ever, a walking meeting might help engage employees and generate ideas. You can establish a walking meeting, a virtual walking meeting with your team by using the Teams mobile app. We had planned to show a video here today, but are having technical difficulties, so I'm going to skip through that. Oh.
Tabby, I think you can leave the video playing. It's just music here.
Great, video actually worked. So now that you know how you can use the mobile app for a walking meeting, we've prepared here 5 tips for effective Teams walking meetings. The first tip is plan ahead. Give notice to attendees of a walking meeting. Also, you don't really want to make this a requirement. So if people don't want to do the walking meeting, they don't need to. Stay on track. You can prepare an agenda in advance and share your screen on the mobile app. One size doesn't fit all. Make sure the situation is right. Not all meetings are appropriate. Who needs a note taker? You can record the meeting through your mobile app for reference later. And I'll pass it over to Ryley to talk about the technical gotchas of a walking meeting.
Thanks, Tabia. So a note when you want to do a walking meeting like this. Stop my incoming video feed there. When you want to do a walking meeting like these, when you switch between Wi-Fi and your 3G, LTE, 4G data signal, that can take 10 to 15 seconds. So it sounds like the participants have dropped the call. What I recommend is turning off your Wi-Fi before you leave your house so that when you were to break your Wi-Fi connection, you don't have to switch. You're already on your data. If you don't have a conservative data plan, you can always get licensing for dial-in features so that you can call in instead if you either don't have access to data or don't have as much data. But Teams is really conservative for their data usage. So they've brought it down to 1.2 megabits per second. That's pretty technical. What that means is a 1 hour call with HD video like what we're doing right now will be between a quarter and half a gigabyte, depending on how many participants and the HD video feeds. So it's actually pretty good for your data plan. So my final thoughts on creating a community within Microsoft Teams. I'm gonna hop out of the PowerPoint here and show you our demo environment. So we've already been here today. The key thing I want to talk about is using Teams to create a social and kind of like a community space. So in these times while we're all working from home, we're not seeing each other anymore. So we've used Teams to now create a company-wide social and family team that we use to have our conversations for fun. So we've gone out and created channels for babies and pets, our book club, foodies, hobbies, lunch social, which we have Friday meetings scheduled in to have lunch together. We have a Monday morning coffee with a meeting scheduled in the channel to have coffee together, start our weeks. We have movies and TV. We have our nerds. And when I zoomed in, I hid these channels. We've also got birthdays and a marketplace. A cool thing to note, these are receiving RSS website summaries from different websites. So things like the foodies are grabbing what recipes and the movies are talking about movies. So that Teams is generating some of that content for us so that we can really kind of create a sense of community and bring our family together. I'm going to pass it back to Tabia to kind of send our closing notes and then open up for Q&A.
Great. Thank you, Ryley. So we're going to open up for our Q&A now. I'm just going to flip back to our presentation. Experiencing technical difficulties? So thank you so much for attending this webinar. We are going to make it available for recording later and send it to you. If you have any questions about Microsoft Teams, you can visit us at our website to inquire for a demo or about our adoptions package. To find out more about the SysGen Digital Advisory team, please visit us at this website location, or you can contact me directly at tabiam@sysgen.ca. And now we will open it up for our question and answer. So the first question I have here is, can a walking meeting be used to share video? So this client teaches online outdoor science courses to kids. Could we show them what we are seeing outdoors? Yes, you absolutely can do that. So within the mobile app, there's an ability to share video. You can also have PowerPoints that you share in the mobile app. So that's definitely something that you could plan for.
One of the first questions we got here was on how accurate the statuses were and how often they are updated. They're fairly accurate. They are connected directly to your Exchange calendar. So usually it's within a couple seconds of a calendar event that they flip over, and they flip over on the hour pretty accurately. Monday morning, there was a technical issue for a very short time. Other than that, I'd say the statuses are almost instantly updated consistently. Tabia, do you want to repeat what you said about the available status?
Sorry, is there a question on the available status?
Yeah, somebody's asking to repeat just your description of the available status.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so in terms of the available status, that basically anytime that you're in Teams and you're not in a meeting or anything, it's going to show as available unless you change that status. So you will be completely available under that status. But Teams does automatically change your status from available to busy. If you have something scheduled in your Outlook calendar, like a meeting, it will automatically change that status for you, and you don't have to manually change it.
Another good one here was, does a priority contact have the ability to override a presenting status or only a do not disturb? I've seen this one kind of behave intermittently. Usually it does interrupt both. But a presenting status, it usually doesn't give you a banner notification. It just gives you an alert on your number count, and you will have a beep for the notification, but I don't think you see a banner.
There's a great question here on what is the advantage of using this over Zoom, GoToMeeting, or email? So someone's having a hard time seeing the gains. So for Zoom in particular, there's been a lot in the news about some of their security issues that they have. So from a security standpoint, I would say that Teams is a lot more secure than Zoom would be. GoToMeetings and email on their own, they don't integrate as a whole. So Teams is not just Skype for Business, it's not just meetings, it has a whole productivity suite all integrated together. So you're able to collaborate on documents, and all of those documents, all the sharing that you do and changes, you can actually be, are actually saved automatically for you. So a lot of these other technologies, although they're great on their own, they don't have the full suite of functionality that Microsoft Teams does. Ryley, do you have any other comments on that?
Yeah. As a note, I'd also like to comment on the budget perspective of it. When you use Microsoft Teams, if you're already on Office 365, it's now going to be your email system, your file server, your communication platform, and you don't have, like, a lot of my clients are on Office 365 and they've bought GoToMeeting and they've bought Zoom and they've bought another of these third-party video apps. And while that's fine, if they use Teams, there's no additional cost. They can stop paying for these other third-party solutions. So it's really been a budget and licensing thing for a lot of my clients.
Here's another great message. I don't understand where the files are uploaded to in Teams, where they're actually saved. Are they on OneDrive or SharePoint? So in terms of OneDrive and SharePoint and how the files are saved, that depends on how you're sharing your files. So if you share a file in a chat, it's going to save in your OneDrive, and all the permissions will automatically be given to the person so they can access that file that you're in the chat with. However, if you are going to be sharing a file in your actual Teams channels, then that is shared on the SharePoint in Teams. So there is a difference depending on how you are sharing that file. So if it's in chat, it's going to go to OneDrive, and if it's in a Teams channel, it's going to go to SharePoint.
And my recommendation is, usually if you're doing it with it's a document that's going to belong to the team at any point, you should put it in the team in the first place so that it can just live in its permanent location. A note here about
I was just going to say that that's a big piece around governance, is determining how you want to share and collaborate on files in Teams. And so knowing kind of how things are saved and shared is going to help build out your governance on what you want to do. So it is better to share a link rather than the file directly, just in terms of document management and source of truth. Sorry, go ahead, Ryley.
I was just climbing back through some of the older questions here. So if you hide a name, how do you bring it back for later? This one is fairly inconvenient. You're hiding some money, and you're probably, my use case is you're probably not going to interact with them again. If you don't interact with them frequently, they'll naturally bubble down to the bottom of your activity and you won't see them. You can also pin the key ones you need to work with the most at the top. But if you need to unhide somebody because you have hidden them, if you start a new chat with them, then you'll be in the chat window and you'll be able to then go back to the chat, right click, and unhide them in the same way you hid them. Another note on the limit of the number of channels. Functionally, it will only let you pin up to 5 for everybody, unless you're an admin, where you can pin up to 20, as you saw here on the list. You can have the limit's a lot larger, but I don't recommend you really get to more than like 50 channels, because then it starts to get really cluttered and you're not necessarily getting the gains of finding information effectively. Offhand, I believe the limit's 1,000 channels. It's more than you would need.
Here's a good one, Ryley, for you to answer. Does a priority contact have the ability to override a presenting status or only do not disturb?
I mentioned that one, but I'm going to answer another question while I re-answer it here. So a priority contact does not interrupt a presenting status in the same way that they can interrupt a do not disturb. If you're in a do not disturb status, they'll interrupt you and you'll receive the same type of notification you would if you were normal. So you'd get the banner notification, which is the little pop-up that pops up in the corner of the screen, right where my SysGen logo is, where you get the notification and it tells you what the message says. There's also just the Teams icon on the bottom of your taskbar, which has a count of the number of notifications. If you're in presenting mode, your count will increase and you will hear the beep, but you won't get a do not disturb, or you will not get the banner notification. So it's not as distracting, but you do still receive the notification from a priority contact. Somebody's asking about the group call, seeing more than 4 participants on your screen at once. Microsoft's been making a lot of headway to try to keep people focused, so they really don't think more than 4 people need to be actively presenting and engaged with that at any one time. With that being said, everybody's excited about Zoom and some of the other platforms which can let you see a wall of video, especially for socializing. So Microsoft is increasing the limit to 9 cameras, effective right away here. It should be coming out in the next couple days if you don't already end up on a call with that many people and see them on a grid. So it's going to be going up to 9. I don't know if it's going to go up a lot higher than that. There's some complexities with keeping the video efficient and just keeping everybody focused. You're still at work with Teams. So
here's a good one here. It says, I have Teams both on my computer and on my cell. I turned off my computer last night, but someone sent me a note later saying that they noticed I was still on. Does that mean that my mobile device will still show my status as available until I change it there also? So I have noticed personally when I'm on my mobile device that people will sometimes show as available when they're not. I find that there is the status updating in the mobile device is not as fluid as it is on the computer. Ryley, do you have anything to say around that?
Yeah, just as a technical note, it's kind of Apple's fault with the way iOS is designed. But if your phone is on and your screen is on and the Teams app has not been forced closed in the background, you will flip to available. And that's just kind of the way it works there. So one of the things I recommend is in the mobile app, there are notification settings and you can set yourself a work window where you do not, you want to be quiet hours. So you set those so that you're not receiving messages after hours. Just a quick one I can answer here. RSS is a real site summary. Many websites have these available. If you go to a website, you might be able to find a button that says follow me on RSS. What that does is it's just like a newsletter set from the website. So you can take that and send it to Teams so that Teams will watch that RSS feed at 1 hour, 6 hours daily and grab the posts and bring them over. How do you have a meeting? Very last one here, because we're coming up on time. How do you have a meeting with somebody who doesn't have Teams? If they don't have Teams, that's totally fine. What you can do is if they open up a link for a Teams meeting and they don't have Teams on their computer in Edge or Google Chrome, they will be able to just open the link and without installing anything, without logging in, run the Teams meeting inside their browser. If you want to join on a mobile app or on an iPhone or Android, you do need to get the mobile app, but you don't have to log in. It just handles the video call. So for anybody who doesn't have Teams, they can still attend your meetings.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for this webinar and for putting up with some of the technical challenges we had. This shows how, all of us are kind of working from home in our own offices, but we were still able to put together this webinar for you today. So I did want to discuss our next webinar in case you're interested in signing up. It's going to be about the post-COVID workshop with RGO and Steelcase, and that's on May 21st at 11 a.m. So this is a great one now as we start to look at opening up the economy and returning back to the workplace. It's going to be in waves. So basically, if you in this workshop, they're going to be talking about physical distancing, office density, and needing to wear masks and other protective gear in the office. You will get an understanding of the design, technology, and planning considerations for going back to work. And you can register at that webinar at sysgen.ca/webinar. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us. It definitely has been an experience planning and organizing this webinar. So we really appreciate that you joined us today.
Thanks, everyone.